Okay. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Creating the Perfect Poster for the Undergraduate Research Symposium. I am Shakita Allen, and I'm a communication specialist here in the Learning Commons.
And I am Greg Shaberg. I am also a communication specialist in the Learning Commons.
And today, we are going to focus on the elements regarding format and layout requirements to create your poster for the Undergraduate Research Symposium. This year, the guidelines are a little different than the previous year, and we will show you where to find all of the information regarding creating and submitting your poster. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so we're going to begin with what to specifically include in your poster. So what you want to do, you want to be sure to include the header, which is going to consist of the title of your poster, your name, the institution, and your faculty sponsor with the division. If you don't know some of the information, be sure to reach out to your sponsor for this information. You also want to include the abstract. And remember, the abstract is the 150-word synopsis of your research project. Include an introduction section which details a little information about the problem statement and or the benefit for the research. You want to include your thesis or your hypothesis and your procedure methods or research design methods of what you used and how you went about completing your project. You will also need to include your results and the discussion of the study by stating what was the outcome. And finally, depending on the discipline, you will need to include your references or works cited page. And this information can be presented on the front or the back of the poster as handouts to be provided upon request.
All right. Now, Ms. Allen told you all of these categories, and there's a good reason why. Uh, you will be judged on each one of these. And the rubric is available on the website, on the Symposium website, and we'll show you how to get to it later. But we wanted to give you a little heads up here. In order to make sure that you're staying on track as you create your poster, it's always good to have this rubric pulled up. And as you can see across the top, you have the point values. On the left, you probably don't want to aim for that low bar. You probably want to look over here on the right to the perfect 10 that you're aiming for in each category. Any score from 7 to 10 is good. So in this area, if you're making sure that you have all the elements the judges are looking for by reading these boxes, you'll be in good shape. The areas that the judges will be looking for, again, are poster heading, abstract, research question, introduction or background, method, your methodology, how you set up your study, results, finding or main argument, a conclusion and or discussion, references, and as Ms. Allen said, you do not have to have those references like on the front of the poster. You can tape them to the back, or you can have handouts to give to folks who ask for your references. And trust me, the judges are going to ask because they have to score you in this category. So make sure that you have your references available. Also, they will look at the images and overall design of your poster to make sure that it's professional, that it's clean, that it has a logical flow. So read the right-hand column and kind of this will give you a good idea of what the judges will be scoring. Other things to consider as well, you want to make sure that your title is short and it draws interest. Remember that you're going to be in the lobby of FPAC. All of the posters will be set up. People will be milling about. Those who are attending, the symposium, we'll be looking at various posters. You want to draw them in. So you want a nice, catchy title that piques their interest and makes them want to come over and read more, to find out more. So make sure that your title is short and it draws interest. Include your name, your institutional affiliation, and faculty sponsor or division when you are in the header of the poster, when you're creating your header. You want a word count of about 300 to 800 words total. The fewer, the better. You don't want to take a 1,000-word paper, a 1,500 word paper, 2,000 word paper, and smush it into a 42 by 36 poster, because that will be a hot mess. You want to give your reader something that's visually appealing. You want to give your reader's eyes a break every once in a while. You want to have some white space. You want to include some images, perhaps some graphs or charts. So you break up the text a little bit. So keep that in mind. Do not just take a paper and transfer it to your poster. That is not going to be a winning strategy. You might consider using bullets, numbering, and headlines to make the poster easier to read and to follow. It'll look a little cleaner. Remember that your viewer will be standing about 5 feet away from your poster, 5 to 6. Yeah, maybe even 2 or 3 deep if you have several people looking at your poster at the same time. So they're not going to be right up to it. So you want to make sure that they can access your information easily and read it easily. You want to make sure to effectively use graphics, color, and fonts, which we're going to talk about throughout this presentation, and maintain a consistent, clean layout.
So now we're going to talk a little bit about developing your layout. So when developing your layout, think about the design you have in mind. You may want to draw or lay out your design first to see where you want columns and sections to be placed. You can use a grid to help keep items aligned. Using a grid will help you organize your poster layout a little bit neatly. And then when adding text, use a text hierarchy. On your poster, the title will be the largest text on the poster and usually in bold font. Your name will be the smaller text, and the main text will usually be the smallest font on the poster. We have given you a few suggestions about the size to consider for each of the text elements. For example, if your title is 85-point font, then your headers might be 54 and the text might be 48. Also, you want to use 3 to 4 columns. Incorporating too many columns, though, will make your poster look a little cluttered. So be sure to keep your poster aligned and neat as possible. In addition, fewer columns allows you to use larger fonts if possible. And also keep in mind that people will read upper left, down the columns, and to the lower right. And you want your poster to guide the viewer's eye easily across your poster to get your points across effectively. Remembering, using too many underlined columns may distract your viewer and make your poster look cluttered, disordered, or chaotic, and you want to avoid that.
Okay, continuing with developing the layout. One of the things that you want to try to do is keep about 40% of the poster area empty of text and images. As you can see from the graphic we have on the slide, we have a lot of white space in there that breaks up the text, separates columns, and creates kind of a clean, easy to read, logical look. So try to keep around 30–40% of the poster free of text and images. You want to limit your use of boxes and lines. Lines prevent your reader's eyes from scanning smoothly. As I'm reading, as Ms. Allen said, from the upper left to the lower right, I'm following along. If you have vertical lines to separate your columns, that's okay. Because I'm naturally going to go column to column to column. But if you have horizontal lines, let's say you put one down here in the first column, my eyes are going to scan down to that line and then they're going to stop. And they might then shift over to the right. Instead of reading the information that logically follows down here, I'm now jumping ahead and looking here. So be careful about use of horizontal lines. Your reader's eyes will be blocked at that point, and where they go from there, you can't control. So make sure that you consider, uh, the ease of access to your information as you're creating your poster. Also, you want to place related items close to one another. That's logical. Most people are going to do that. They are going to, in your paper, when you write a paper, you put similar items next to one another. Same goes for the poster. You do not want a picture over here that relates to text to the left. You don't want your reader to have to hunt for things. So the viewer should be able to relate the picture to the text. Keep that in mind. Also, use templates that the Symposium provides. We'll show you where to access those at the end of the workshop. Or you can select 42 by 36 templates from certain websites out there. You can just Google scientific posters and or scientific poster templates, and you should find some websites out there that have different designs. Make sure that you select the 42 by 36 option, because that is what the committee requires. Any questions about layout up to this point? You can unmute and ask, or you can put them in the chat. Any at all? Okay.
Now we have a question for you. After all the information that we've went over, as you are laying out your poster, what should you keep in mind based on the information that we just went over? Should you keep in mind the appropriate size and text for each section of your poster? Keep in mind that lines should be placed throughout your poster to underline and emphasize points. Keep in mind keeping roughly 40% of your poster free of text and images, or that people will read the poster from upper left down each column into the lower right. And you can put your answers in the chat, or you can unmute yourself. And what you want to do is select all that apply. And we see. Very good. We're having, yes, good, good in the chat. Very good. Yes. Very good. Yes. You want to keep in mind A, C, and D. The appropriate size text for each section of your poster, keeping roughly 40% of your poster free of text and images. And keep in mind that people will read the poster from upper left down each column into the lower right. Very good, everyone.
Okay. So let's shift a little bit from talking about layout to talking about selecting fonts and using text. For printed posters, posters that you're going to present in an in-person format, serif fonts like Times New Roman are going to be the best to use. They are considered easier to read when it comes to printed material. A serif is this little outcropping that you see on letters. You see it in the D here where the magnifying glass is on the image. You see it at the bottom of the A, both capital and lowercase. You see it on the B. So these serifs help readers read the printed text a little more easily, and if you're standing a little farther back, it helps as well. So for posters that are going to be presented in an in-person conference, you want to use a serif font like Times New Roman. However, if you happen to attend a virtual conference, or you're doing a 3-minute thesis, let's say for the symposium, and you have a PowerPoint slide that you're allowed with that, anything that's viewed virtually, you want to use sans serif fonts. You want to use fonts without serifs, like Helvetica, Calibri, Arial. Those are some common fonts. In fact, Calibri is the default font for Microsoft Word. So for online viewing, you want sans serif fonts. But for this event, you want to make sure that you have a serif font like Times New Roman in order to make it easier for your readers to read the material. Of course, the decisions are all up to you. These are just recommendations that Ms. Allen and I are giving you today. But most sources agree that serif fonts are best in this case.
Also, when selecting fonts and using text, you want to use no more than 3 font styles and avoid using fonts that are not normally used, such as Comic Sans or the cursive brush script. Creative fonts like this makes it difficult to read the information and it distracts your viewer. You want to combine uppercase and lowercase letters throughout your text. Using all uppercase letters creates a rectangular shape, making reading more difficult. So you want to be sure to combine while you're creating your poster. And the ascending and descending strokes in lowercase letters makes words easier to recognize. You want your audience to be able to read all of the information quickly and efficiently across your poster.
Also, when selecting and using text, you want fonts that can be easily read. As Ms. Allen said, you want to pick the right font. You don't want Lucinda where you got a scripty font. You don't want to pick Comic Sans, which is kind of a gimmicky font. You want to use something that is standard and easy to read. You also want to think about color. If you have a white background on your poster, black text is perfect. It has high impact, excellent readability. However, in some cases, you might want to color your background, or you might want to color your font in order to kind of highlight areas. If you do this, keep in mind your color combinations. For example, you want to make sure there's still contrast in there. Yellow on white, not a good combo. Red on black, still not great. Black on red, blue on black, all very difficult to read. As you can see by the graphic, white on the navy or the royal blue here is easy to read. The black is harder to read. And this pea green on red hurts your reader's eyes. As I'm reading it, the text is literally vibrating. So not a pleasant experience. So keep in mind the color of your background and the color of your font as you're creating your poster.
Now we have another question for you. Based on the information that we just talked about, when selecting fonts and using text, what should you keep in mind? You want to select all that apply. Use no more than 3 font sizes. Use serif fonts for in-person presentations. Use a font color that can be easily read, or use all capital letters to make your text easier to read. Very good. Good, good, good. Good job. Yes. So when selecting your fonts, you want to keep A, B, and C in mind. Use no more than 3 font sizes. Use serif fonts for in-person presentations, and use a color font that is easily read.
Does anyone have any questions about selecting fonts or using text at this point in the presentation? Okay, great. At any time, if you have a question, put it in the chat or wait for a moment where we kind of pause and ask. We're more than happy to help. Okay, we're going to shift now to color. We're going to focus on choosing and using color in your poster. Of course, you want to maintain a color scheme. 2 or 3 related colors will give your poster a cohesive look. If you use a standard 12 section color wheel like the one we have here on our graphic, then any 3 neighboring colors will work well together. So pick a color and kind of look at any of the 3 neighboring colors and you will have kind of the color range that would be acceptable. So if we're saying use 2 or 3, pick a couple that are close on the wheel together. Do not pick opposites. Sometimes work, but I would advise against it. Just keep this rule of thumb in mind. Kind of look up a 12 section color wheel and you'll be able to tell which colors work well with others. Also, within a slice of that color wheel pie, you can select any shade. And of course, those colors will complement one another. So make sure that you keep in mind this color scheme so that your readers find your poster pleasing and easy to view. You don't want to hurt their eyes. Okay, another thing you want to keep in mind is background. Plain background is the best. Go with the plain background. That's my advice. Don't use a picture. If you have a picture in the background like we do here, you will make your information a little bit more harder to read. It is distracting. You want your readers to focus on your important research, not on the interesting picture that you placed in the background. So plain background is always smart. Also, when thinking about choosing a color, you want to make sure to avoid using too many saturated colors. You don't want to use neon lime green, all over the place. You're gonna, blow your readers' eyes out of their sockets. So be selective, be careful, be mindful. Think of your viewer as you're selecting colors. Use them sparingly and avoid using large amounts of red, yellow, or orange, because what they can do is overpower your message. Small amounts, fine, because things pop with those colors, but be careful because all of the warning signs that we have in our culture are in those colors, red, yellow, and orange. So they can be a bit unsettling for viewers.
Now we're going to talk about using images in your poster. So when using images, make sure that your images are meaningful and related to the topic of your research. Irrelevant images may make your poster confusing to view. And you also want to be sure to crop or edit images so that the important information is obvious. Also, give your photos short titles or captions for reference. Make sure that you label all your photos and your captions in your poster so that the viewers know what those captions are, what those pictures are, and label directly on maps, charts, and graphs to make them easier for your reader to understand. What you want to do is try to avoid legends, as they can lead your reader or your viewer to search for information in your poster, and that may distract them from your hypothesis or central point of the presentation.
Yeah, you don't want to put too much work on your reader there.
What you also want to do is be sure to simplify charts and graphs, removing any non-essential or irrelevant information, and use bold lines so that the data can be easily seen. But keep in mind Like Mr. Shabers said, to pay attention to the color scheme of your graphs and make sure that is easily read. Avoid off-putting color combinations. And also balance your images to lead your viewer's eye through the material easily.
Okay, so now that we've talked about images and colors, we have another question for you. What should you consider when incorporating images and color in your poster? Where to place legends on your poster to guide viewers? Using bright saturated colors sparingly? Using 2 or 3 related colors to give your poster a cohesive look? Choosing images that are meaningful and relevant? Or using red, yellow, and orange to emphasize important points? Okay, we got a few answers here. We got A, B, C, and D. Anyone else? A and C.
And remember, these are things that you should
This
consider.
is, yeah, these are things you should consider, not what you should avoid. Okay. The correct answer is B, C, and D. Things that you want to do is you want to keep in mind is to use bright saturated colors sparingly, use 2 or 3 related colors to give your poster a cohesive look, and choose images that are meaningful and relevant. You want to avoid legends altogether, so you don't want to think about that. You want to put those legends in, and you probably do not want to use a lot of red, orange, and yellow to emphasize your points. So great. Anyone have any questions on color and images?
Or any of the information that we went over so
Yeah,
far.
anything at all.
That's okay, Orchard.
Okay.
All right. So, everyone, now we have come to the activity portion of the workshop. And what we're going to do is take a look at various posters. And what we want you to do is help us evaluate each poster based on the information presented in this workshop. So all of the information that we went over, we're going to evaluate the posters based on that information. So what I want you to do is pay attention to the font, pay attention to the text, the layout, the colors, and the images all used in these posters, and evaluate what makes it good and what are some things that can be done better in the poster. And
Yeah.
then what you can do is you can put it in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and say a short phrase about what's good and what can be done better for each poster.
Now, one thing to consider, one caveat here is we have got an image of an image that we've taken. So the font isn't always easy to read um, because of the size of the picture you're looking at. If it were a 42 by 36 poster, then you probably would be able to read it a little better. So keep that in mind as you're looking at it, but give it an overall look, kind of thinking about the things that make a good poster effective. So here's our first one. So let's look at some pros and cons. Can anybody give us some positives about this poster?
Very good, John. Yeah, the poster is organized. It is organized well. Yes, good, Orchard. Good muted colors. The colors aren't harsh and they're not brazen and in your face. Good, Jessica. The images are related to the topic. They are. Very good, Jane. Yes, they use roughly 3 colors throughout. Yes, good job.
Yeah. What do you think about the little graphic image on the right? Do you think now, of course, it's kind of small for you to read at this point. Imagine it blown up a bit. Do you think that's a good, effective image? Anyone?
Orchard pointed out,
Oh,
good, Jane. Yeah, not really. It could be improved upon. Orchard did point out that there is a legend. Yes.
yeah, there's a legend to the left, and that
Yes,
legend is difficult to read, and you're putting your reader to a lot of work here. Your reader's standing 5 feet away trying to figure out now what color is Hispanic and
exactly.
and where is that on the legend? And I'm looking back and forth and I'm becoming annoyed and I probably will move on. Oh, that's definitely a negative. Any other negatives that you see on the poster?
A lot of orange.
Yeah, there's a lot of orange. There is enough white space to kind of temper it some, but there is. It's a good
Yes,
point.
yes. And remember, muted colors do work the best. Good
What do
job,
you,
everyone.
yeah, and I just wanted to point out the way that this person has set up his or her methodology is, in my opinion, smart. Having just the main points with headers off to the left and the text to the right, it makes it easy to read, easy to understand, and I really like that instead of just having a paragraph about my methodology. Um, this creator has set up information with bullets and with um, nice category headers. These are my main points, and here's some detail to go with it. I like that. I like it a lot. Good. Let's go to poster number 2.
All right.
So
So
let's start with the
we're going to start
positives.
with the positives
Yeah, let's
first.
start with the positives.
So, what can you see as a positive? And remember, think about the introduction, think about your header, think about the information that's presented on the poster. Do they have the information? Do they have the information that they need in the header on this poster? Good. The images seem to be relevant. Okay. They use roughly 3 colors, but too much information.
Yeah,
Yes.
TMI. Way
TMI.
too much information. Good. This is one of those, I took my entire paper and smushed it in a poster.
And we want to avoid that.
Yes. I do have to say that I like the color combination, the darker blue at the top makes the white pop. The darker blue in the headers helps the white pop as well. Because the headers are all caps, might be a little difficult to read, but
Yes, very good, everyone. Yes, the image is good, but too many words. Yes, no bullets or space in between the information, just a bunch of paragraphs. Yes,
right.
looks way too cluttered and a bit overwhelming. Yes,
It's
it does.
That's an excellent observation. If I'm an attendee at the symposium and I'm walking along the rows of posters, this one I'm going to skip.
Yes,
I'm going to see that and my brain's going to say, I don't have time for this, and I'm going to move on. So this is a good example of what to avoid. Now let's look at the pictures. What do you think of the pictures in them? Too many?
what
Too
about the
few?
contrast of the black and white and the color? Does that work for everyone?
Are they related? Can you tell from standing at a distance?
The background isn't a solid color.
Good, good
Good.
observation.
Yes.
It's kind of a blurred picture. Excellent. So it creates issues toward
It's
the
just
bottom of
not
the poster.
organized. Yeah, the pictures
Yeah.
seem to be kind of sporadic throughout this poster.
Hmm. And you have to get right up to it, I would imagine, even if it were full size, to read those captions to figure out how those pictures relate to the text above. Good,
Not organized good.
good.
Good observations, everyone.
Yeah, these are great. Um, they do, as a plus, have references on here. But like I said, you do not have to have the references on the front of your poster if you don't want. They just have to be available for the viewers. So think about how you might do that. If you have room, then great, go ahead and do it. Okay, let's look at another.
All right. So, what do you think this poster did well? What do we think about the colors on this poster? The orange is very bright.
It
It's
is,
orange on white.
it is. To the background is muted though, so that's helpful.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Yes, John. The orange is bright. They may have wanted to use maybe a more muted color,
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah, and less saturated orange there. This person was going to go from TCC to the University of Florida, which kind of makes the color combination a little more, um, well, you can understand why they use the color combination a little better with that information. Not that you would know that just walking by them. I
What about the
like,
layout? Do you think the
yeah,
layout is neat on this poster? Not as many pictures, which may seem like a bad thing. Blue background is no. Oh, you mean the blue lines on the side? Yeah, I think as Mr. Shaberg said, they chose these colors for a specific reason. The blue does look like it doesn't kind of like it's kind of standing out, but I
the
think they
blue,
chose these
or do you
colors
mean
for a
the whole blue
reason.
background? Yeah, it is pretty simple, but it's easy to read. The one thing that you have to remember is you'll be standing there next to your poster. And so you don't want to put all of your information, every detail into your poster. You just want to hit the highlights. So your reader, or so that the viewers will ask questions. You want them to interact with you so that you can talk about your research. So that's a good observation. But to me, in my opinion, the simplicity helps me access the information a little easier.
Yeah, and as Jane said, it does look organized. It is very organized. Yes.
And you're not at a conference, remember too, for people who are all in your field. The judges and the viewers are going to be from disciplines across, the curriculum. So keep that in mind. Keep your viewers in mind as you're considering what information to include in your poster.
Now, one suggestion I might have done with this poster differently, however, this student did go with this method, is the methodology and the results are together.
Yeah,
I may have created two separate sections for that because methodology is the procedure that you go through to get to the answer, and the results are what you get. So those are two different separate that's separate information to me. However, it worked for this poster and the way this student laid it out worked well. But for me personally, that's one thing I would have
Yeah.
changed.
I agree. I agree. So I'll give you a little bit of inside information here. In 2019, when we had um, our last symposium before the pandemic hit and we went online, this was the winning poster for that year. This was the poster that took first place. So knowing that, kind of keep that information in the back of your mind when you're thinking about how much information to present, how many images you should put on, how you should balance those images, things like that. This was the winning poster that year. And it was partially the research, and he did have a very short, interesting title, The Warp Drive or Ticket to the Stars, for sci-fi fans like Ms. Allen and me. we were interested in this topic, so I think it drew a lot of folks' interest as well. But this was the winning poster.
Yeah. And good job, everyone, on your evaluations. Very good. Thank you. Okay. And most of the information used in this presentation today comes from the following sources. Feel free to visit any of these resources to learn more about creating posters. And now what we're going to do in this part of the presentation, Mr. Shaberg is going to navigate the website to show you how to participate and submit your presentations.
Okay, so let me take you to, yeah, most of you probably know where the Symposium website is because you've all submitted abstracts, but to refresh your memory, what you want to do is type in undergraduate. Usually you just have to type in undergraduate research. That should be enough. And then the first link is the one you wish to click on. Scroll down to where you submitted your abstract, and right next to that is how to participate. Click on how to participate and then scroll down to choose your presentation style. When you get to the presentation style, you have a poster session here. And there are three things that you can view. One of the things that I want to point out is this is where you can access the rubric that we looked at the beginning of the presentation. So if you click on the rubric, it'll come up and you can take a look at what the judges will be looking for in the winning poster. What I'd like to focus on, though, at this point are the poster presentation guidelines, the very first link in the category. When you look at these first guidelines, these are the important ones to take note of. First, make sure that your poster is 42 by 36. That is the print size required. Do not pick a bigger poster size or a smaller poster size. Make sure that your poster is 42 by 36, that your PowerPoint is set for that. Also, if you use the templates that we're about to look at that come with the on the Symposium website, those are all automatically set to 42 by 36. So you might start there. If you requested on the abstract submission form that you wanted a table, then to hold things like your laptop, samples, lab notes, handouts, those tables will be right next to your easel so that you can place those materials on there. All posters must be related to the research materials covered in the abstract. You can't say you're going to do one thing, but then present on another. This unfortunately happened to a student last year who accidentally uploaded the previous year's poster file and sent it for printing. So the poster that was waiting for him when he showed up to the symposium was not the poster that was related to the abstract he'd submitted for that year. So he was disqualified. So make sure that when you submit your poster for printing, that you've selected the right file and that you're not picking a PowerPoint presentation that you made for history or something like that. So be very careful. Also, make sure that your poster includes an abstract, introduction, methodology, results, discussion, and conclusions, and references section, or references must be available. It should be submitted in PDF format. So take your PowerPoint template and create a PDF file and send it to undergraduate research, all one word, at tcc.fl.edu. The link is right here. So if you go into the site and click on the poster guidelines, you will be able to find this information. Posters will be judged and awards given to the best posters in each category. Now, I didn't mention this when we were looking at the rubric earlier, but as I said, you'll be standing there giving your presentation to passersby. People will be asking you questions, and the judges will most definitely ask you questions about your research. Be prepared, because while it's not a category they judge you on, that they give you points on, your interaction with the judges and with others in relaying the information from your study is going to kind of influence the judges' opinions one way or the other. So keep that in mind. Be prepared when you come that day. Your poster will be ready for you, and you'll be able to present your work to all who visit. And I'm looking forward to seeing it. Next, let me go back to the poster presentation session. You want to go to poster templates, and Ms. Allen will talk to you a little bit more about those.
Correct. So on that same page, as Mr. Shabrick just showed you, there are poster templates available for you to utilize. And there's several templates that you can go through. You can look at any of those templates. And as you can see, one of the templates did look familiar. It looked just like the template that the winning poster was on. Now, keep in mind, you can change the colors on these templates. You can change the layouts. You can change the designs, but these are here for you to utilize. Now, this is not an exhaustive list. As Mr. Shabrick said earlier, you can definitely go to the website and find scientific poster templates to utilize, but make sure that you are following the requirements of what's needed for each of the poster and have the sections that you need. And make sure the poster dimensions are 42 by 36, because that will be a requirement for your poster. But if you want to just quickly find a template that you can utilize, these templates are definitely available for you and approved for use. So you can utilize this as well.
Now, I want to make note that almost all of these templates end with a box saying acknowledgements. If you wish to acknowledge someone, you can, but you are not required to. And it's not a category that the judges are going to be looking at. If you want to use that section for references, you could change the header to say references, and that would be best. I noticed that the poster, the winning poster, he left the acknowledgements in there and had references instead. I would change the header to say references. That would be my suggestion, or just eliminate it altogether if you don't want to have your references on the front and you don't have any acknowledgements that you'd like to make. So
And,
like I said, it's not an essential category.
and a quick question, is the TCC logo required if we use a different template?
No, it's not. The committee just wanted several of these templates to have, that's a really good question, to have the logo on there. You could go into a template and perhaps copy and paste it if you wanted to on another. I would personally put the TCC logo on there. it is the institution that you are presenting at. So you can go on to one of these templates and copy and paste. That would be my advice. What do you think, Ms. Allen?
I agree.
But that's a very good question. I would put the college's logo on there. We could kind of show your pride in where you study. Any other questions? Let me go ahead and close this.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you for joining us.
Well, we want to thank you all for joining us. We are so happy that you're here. We're going to stick in the room for a little bit afterwards. If you have any questions or you want to show us something that you're working on, we'll be happy to take a look at it. Again, we appreciate you taking the time to come and for your participation. If you have any questions at all that you think of beyond this, you can either come to Learning Commons and talk to either Ms. Allen or to me, or you can utilize one of our email addresses and send us the question that way. And if we don't have the answer, we will find it out for you or direct you to the person who has it. Again, thank you very much. There is a workshop. Oh,